We're going to open our workshop meeting agenda. It is March 14th at 11:30. If you'll bow with me, and then we'll say our Pledge of Allegiance. Father, thank you for this chance to be together. Lord, I thank you for the opportunity we have to represent the city of Murfreesboro, for those that work so hard every single day to make Murfreesboro a better place to live. Help us make decisions, Lord, that will be best for our residents in Murfreesboro. We thank you for all these things. In your holy name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Jennifer, we have no public comment on action items, do we?
No, sir, we don't.
All right. I want to introduce Chad is I feel like we're at the Oscars and you're the award. Yeah. So, but you're not going to be like John Cena and walk across the stage naked, are you? Yeah.
That's enough out of you.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Chad, the podium's yours.
City Council, my name's Cannon Lowry. I'm the Vice Chair of the Airport Commission. Happy to serve the community in that capacity. I've grown up here at Murfreesboro Airport, got my license here when I was 19, and have really been proud of the growth that I've seen at the airport and the city. I was at the Tennessee Aviation Association conference last week, and we had the honor of being awarded the Airport of the Year. And we want to thank you for your support of the City Council and members of the city staff, and of course Chad and his team as well. And they mentioned there's not just one thing that caused this award to be granted to Murfreesboro. It was many different projects with Hangar 1 and the renovation of the runway and some of the standard operating procedures that have been put in place. And there's just a lot of hard work that goes into running the airport, and I'm very proud of the airport we have. We get positive comments every time. I just had a business individual fly his own jet in last week to have a meeting at our company, and I had friends fly in, and we always get very positive comments. I think it's so important to have a great airport because that really is the gateway to our community for several people. Mostly commercial operators that are looking to come and open businesses here. Typically they don't fly in. Drive in, they fly in. So I'm proud to present this award to the mayor. Appreciate the support.
Thank you.
Tilt the top for me just a little bit. There we go. 2 or 3 more. This will be it. Okay, thank you. We got another award somewhere.
Well, I'm going to sit this here because I have a little bit of a cheat sheet here, but my name is Randy Hudgens. I am on the board of directors of the Tennessee Airport Association, and the association puts on the conference that Cannon alluded to. Also during this conference, there was another award that for Chad, and so I wanted to. I'm here on behalf of the Airport Association to share that with you guys, and also to re-award to Mr. Chad here. But I wanted to take a few minutes and mention a few things about Chad. Most of you probably know about Chad, but first, I'm here representing the TAA Salil Rai, who is the deputy director over at Smyrna, is the current president of TAA. They're having a Part 139 inspection, so he could not be here today, but he's here in spirit. So I do want to say Chad graduated from MTSU and started here as airport manager. When was that, Chad? 1994. So during his tenure, there's been many improvements here at the airport. Chad, the airport actually got Airport of the Year in 2002. And then Chad was nominated the Airport of the Year in 2006, and you received that award. Those awards are provided by the commission, actually, the TDOT Aeronautics Commission, the state commission. So most recently, Chad and the airport, I guess, was awarded the safety award from FAA for the southern region, just for his efforts in maintaining safe airspace and all the operations that you see out here. So during his career, and this is what I particularly like about Chad and his style. He engages a lot of the youth, a lot of the young people who are over at the university, hires them. He's a mentor for these young people, and he's always sharing his not compassion, but his passion, I guess, for general aviation. So I appreciate that. So TAA has been around about 25 years. About 10 years ago, there was a big push to kind of revitalize the group. There was a handful of leaders across the state that were selected to do that. Chad was one of those key people. Chad's been engaged with TAA ever since. I've been engaged about 8 years ever since, and Chad's been on that ever since I've been there. Chad has been president of the TAA, I think, for 2 terms. Currently, he's the secretary on TAA, and he sits on the executive leadership team. And so the award that is presented to Chad is Commitment to General Aviation Award. This is a career type award. This is a pretty significant award. I don't know how many people have actually received this across the state, but Chad, I'll add my 2 cents in. I appreciate the leadership since I've worked on TAA with you. Your leadership style is one of a servant. You have a servant's attitude. I really appreciate that. You have a passion for what you do, and you serve with humility. And I think that's the kind of leader that I aspire to be too. So, Chad, I want to present this to you. Thank you.
Forward guy, that screen with the lights across your back. Just put it right there. All right, relax a little bit. Hold on for just a second. Sitting down here. Okay, we're live. Good more. Your eyes open. That's it. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Again, I'd like to thank the Airport Commission and our City Council for all the support and all the city staff that help us always here at the airport. We couldn't do all this stuff that we do out here without your guidance in all the things that we do, from parks and engineering, finance. Everybody helps out here to make this gateway a pleasant place for the city of Murfreesboro and for our citizens. So thank you very much.
Real briefly, I'd like the Airport Commission to come up and introduce the members that are here. It's a real honor, having a passion in aviation. It's an honor to serve with other individuals that have a passion for aviation. So we don't have the entire commission here. Our chairman, Steve Waldron's in Arkansas, and so I'm serving on behalf of him this morning. But I wanted to introduce Paul Meyer, Shelby Hutton, and Drew Shelley. And appreciate y'all's service on the commission. Thank you.
Hey, so a quick few words. This couldn't be accomplished without, and Bill Shacklett, of course, serving on the Airport Commission and the council representative. But this really couldn't happen without our board and commissions, and then also our staff work. So, change is really tough. And over the last 5 to 6 years, there's been a lot of change out at the airport. Some of that change has happened organically, and some of that change has happened bringing people kicking and screaming along the way. Because, I can say this from now being a pilot, pilots are very detailed and oriented and doing the same thing the way that they do it each and every time. And that means that sometimes we're very reluctant to change. And so you rewind 4 years ago with Chad, and Chad showed an email that he had been really working on improving. And I say this to Chad, the change that you've seen out here could have not happened without having someone like Chad with his temper and his demeanor to be able to make that occur. And so when I saw that email, I'm like, why would anybody treat Chad that way? Chad's like Santa Claus. I mean, everybody likes Santa Claus. So as we start having these discussions, and we've moved into operating procedures, we've moved into Vert Tower, we've moved into talking about additional resources, a new terminal, we've moved into talking about expansion on the ramp, additional services. Chad's been at the head of all that, and I'm thankful that we get to take credit for those things, Chad. But the credit goes solely to Chad and his team, because this wouldn't happen if we didn't have good leadership and we had good people who are making it work day to day. So, Chad, as much as I want to say to everyone, I told you so, seeing that we're the safest airport in Tennessee, seeing that we're win the airport award, and not only, I think, that we have a Lifetime Achievement Award, but, Chad, I would stack you up against any airport director in the state, well, for that matter, in the country. And so I know you've been here 29 years. I hope that you're here another 10 or 15 more years. So we'll need to get that in writing as soon as this is over with. Okay, but folks, for the residents who are out there, you have no idea how good the Murfreesboro residents have having somebody like Chad Gerke lead this. So, Chad, we appreciate it. All right, we'll now move to action items. We have the Community Investment Programs Fund reallocation.
Thank you. We have two CIP reallocations today. The first is to move $50,000 from Butler Drive to the Bradyville project for design and right-of-way purchases. And the second item is just an administrative correction to move about $165,000 of county shared bond proceeds from the maintenance facility for the Reese Rogers renovation project, and also just to correct administrative error on the budgeting there. I'm happy to answer any questions and recommend for approval.
Any questions?
If there are none, I'll move for approval.
Motion is second.
Ms. Saberwater? Aye. Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shacklet?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. All right, we'll move to change order 511, Eventide Drive Housing Rehabilitation.
Good morning, Mayor and council members. The item before you is a change order for 511 Eventide, where we're replacing the shingle roof and making structural repairs to the roof. The bulk of the repairs occur in the garage. And above the garage, in order to accomplish this, we have to remove items out of the garage, put them in storage, move them back in. The homeowner is hoping to do it, but they're unable. So we have a cost not to exceed to accomplish this goal. $7,200 not to exceed.
Any questions?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Saberwater? Aye. Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shacklet?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. All right, let's move to workshop items. The Murfreesboro Metropolitan Planning Organization. Mr. Kerr.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. The city is currently a member of the Greater Nashville Regional Council MPO, which is a body that is represented by 7 counties along with 20 cities, as well as non-voting members from TDOT and FHWA. This body is responsible for identifying and prioritizing regional transportation projects that utilize federal funds designated to the MPO by the federal government. After the 2020 federal census, the city was presented with an opportunity to develop its own MPO due to its individual urbanized area, UZA. The development of the Murfreesboro MPO would allow direct collaboration with TDOT and FHWA in the development of its long-term transportation plan, Unified Planning Work Program, and establish the Transportation Improvement Program for the next 4 years and further. TDOT and FHWA representatives will be presenting information on the development and implementation processes for establishing an MPO. Melanie Murphy will be presenting on behalf of FHWA, and Stacy Morris will be presenting on behalf of TDOT. Melanie, let's see. Click, click. Oh, there it is. Thank you.
Great. Good morning, everyone. As Jim said, I'm Melanie Murphy. I'm a transportation planning specialist with the Tennessee Division of the Federal Highway Administration. Jim's kind of asked us to just provide a little bit of an overview of, what an MPO designation would look like for the city of Murfreesboro, or the Murfreesboro urbanized area, I should say. So I'll walk you all a little bit through just, what kind of triggered this, what that means to be designated as a MPO, and then, what is an MPO, what are the responsibilities of an MPO, just to provide a little more information and background to help y'all kind of, make a decision moving forward. So I'll start out with the census designation. So as we know, the census happens every 10 years. We just had the 2020 census, and those numbers were released at the end of 22, kind of 23, beginning of 23. But to be an urbanized area, the Census Bureau, does the census, and then they designate an urbanized area every 10 years. And to be an urbanized area, you have to have a housing density of 2,000 plus or 5,000 people or more. So anything kind of in that area is considered an urbanized area. An urbanized area with a population of 50,000 or more is then required to be designated as a metropolitan planning organization. You don't per se have to be your own standalone MPO. You can be, as Murfreesboro is right now, part of another MPO, and that kind of fulfills that requirement. So here we kind of have the Nashville, the Nashville MPO planning area. Contains the Nashville UZA, Nashville-Davidson UZA, which has a population of 200,000 or more, a lot more than Murfreesboro is contained within that, also has a population of 50,000 or more. So again, meets that threshold to be an MPO, and then Spring Hill actually does as well. So just wanted to kind of set the tone here. And then for an MPO designation, what does it require? It really is just an agreement among the governor and the units of local government. The kind of minimum threshold there is at least 75% of the affected metropolitan population must be represented within that MPO, must be, at the table, on board to do this. And then the agreement needs to identify, who's going to be part of the MPO, the membership structure, and kind of establish, that planning boundary, and then a board as well. This is kind of the process TDOT's outlined to kind of the steps in becoming an MPO. So first, that census designation is really that trigger to be like, hey, you've reached that 50,000 threshold. You're now eligible to be an MPO, or you're required to actually, be an MPO, be served within an MPO area. You then develop your planning boundaries, execution of legal agreements, and then you develop your bylaws and procedures, and then from there you appoint a policy board. I'm sure it's a lot more nuanced than this, than 5 steps, but that's just kind of, an overview of what that process kind of looks like. And then an actual MPO, I just wanted to kind of cover, what it actually means to be an MPO, what responsibilities, what are all the steps you have to do, and what's required per federal regulation of an MPO. So what is an MPO? As I already said, it's required, federally mandated for urbanized areas with a population of over 50,000. It has the authority and the responsibility for that transportation policy making in the metropolitan planning area. And you'll hear kind of from FHWA a lot, we talk a lot about the 3C process, which, it really is requiring that a comprehensive, cooperative, and continuing process takes place in terms of transportation planning for the area. I've got 6 steps here for what an MPO does. Again, there's a lot more than an MPO does, but this is really some of the key takeaways for the role of an MPO. So it really establishes that setting for effective decision making. You throughout the process identify and evaluate those transportation improvement options for the region. You prepare and maintain a metropolitan transportation plan, often called a long-range plan or a regional transportation plan, but it's really setting the tone kind of 20 years ahead of what you want your transportation system to look like in the area. Develop a transportation improvement program, so really where you're programming those projects in the short term for 4 years. Identify performance measure targets for your area, and then how you're going to help achieve those targets with the investments that you're making for the region. And then lastly, involving the public in the process. Who is the MPO, when we're talking about the MPO, we're really talking about that policy board. That is who the MPO is. That's the decision-making body of the MPO. So that's elected officials and appointed officials, the state DOT, and transit operators. There's a choice to have more folks on that policy board, but that's at least the minimum requirement. Oftentimes there's a technical committee made up of like planners and engineers, some people with technical expertise on the planning process, on transportation, to help make recommendations to the policy board. And then lastly, you have professional staff who actually help kind of facilitate the whole process and make sure all the requirements are being met for the MPO. Here's kind of an overview of what it usually looks like. Like I said, the policy board is the MPO. They're at the helm of it. They're the decision-making body. Then you can have some other committees, some other advisory boards that just help make recommendations to the policy board, so they're really making informed decisions. And then you have MPO staff that really help shepherd them through the process and make sure all those regulatory requirements are being met. So the role of the policy board, so like I said, that is the MPO. That was really the board that's helping develop the regional vision, deciding what do we want this area to look like in terms of transportation in the future. You establish policy for the planning area. You're the decision-making body. You're the one. The body is the one that adopts all the required planning products. So there's like unified planning work programs, the MTP as I mentioned, the TIP. And then they're really the ones to delineate those roles and responsibilities for any other committees and staff as well. The technical committee, so as I also mentioned, they're kind of that advisory board of the policy board. They're the ones who make recommendations on especially that more technical aspect of transportation to the policy board to make sure that the right decisions are being made. And they're usually made up of engineers, staff level folks with the right expertise in transportation. MPO staff, so that professional staff that helps the MPO, they provide the information, technical support to the policy board. They're the ones preparing the documents, the products that are required of the MPO, and other things that the MPO wants to undertake. They foster that interagency coordination. They facilitate the input from the feedback from the public, and then they really are the ones to kind of manage the actual planning process. I'll skip over this slide since TDOT's here and they'll speak a little bit more on this. I've mentioned a couple products that are required per federal regulation to be produced by the MPO. So there's a unified planning work program. That's really the document where you're outlining, hey, with the federal funds that the MPO gets, here's what we're going to be doing. Here are the products that we're planning on. Here's how we're planning on spending that money. So that's required, and you have to kind of document that through a 2-year time period. The Metropolitan Transportation Plan is a plan with at least a 20-year horizon that, again, sets the tone for the region and what you want to look like moving forward. And then the Transportation Improvement Program, the TIP, is a 4-year investment program. So it's kind of a short-term program where you're really, showing where our federally funded projects, kind of programming those, and then also any regionally significant projects. And then lastly, a public participation plan to ensure that everyone is aware of how the public can be engaged in that process. So those are kind of the 4 core documents that need to be produced for the MPO, by the MPO. I have a little bit of just kind of an overview of what that looks like. So the UPWP is on a 2-year schedule. So every 2 years you update the UPWP to show, hey, for FY25 and 26, this is how we're spending our funds. The Metropolitan Transportation Plan has to have a time horizon of 20 plus years, and that has to be updated every 5 years. The TIP has a time horizon of 4 years and has to be updated every 4 years. And then the PPP, there isn't a time horizon for that. You're just going to update that as needed as your process changes and as you develop the process that you want the public to be involved in. And then there is, I've kind of alluded to that there's federal funds allocated to help kind of fund all these requirements and activities that the MPO does. So the MPOs get allocated metropolitan planning funds, which we call PL funds, and then Section 5303 funding from FTA. TDOT uses a consolidated planning grant, CPG, to allocate those funds. And they'll talk a little bit more about actual numbers on what that looks like. And they're distributed by TDOT via a formula that's based mainly on population. And then Murfreesboro, this doesn't change anything. This is already funds that are already allocated to the UZA through the Nashville MPO currently. There's funds sub-allocated to the UZA for STBG, we call it, Surface Transportation Block Grant. That's allocated by TDOT. The Carbon Reduction Program, that's actually allocated by FHWA directly to all the urbanized areas of 50,000 or more by FHWA. And then also Transit Formula funds, so FTA 5307 funds. And that is all I had. It was maybe a lot of information, but I'm willing to take questions, of course, if you have any.
Typically, how are these, the board, when you showed that structure, you had a citizens advisory and you had all those other functions. How is that funded? Is that funded by local government? Is that funded through federal funds? How's that funded?
So I think the board itself, I guess, wouldn't per se be funded. I mean, it's kind of, you're mainly working with elected officials, folks in like a, as just kind of becomes part of their duties to attend certain meetings. But I mean, the MPO does get those federal funds to spend on all things associated with transportation planning as part of the function of the MPO. So I mean, the staff would be funded through those funds. I mean, there is like matching requirements, which again, TDOT will talk a little bit more about what that actually looks like. But most of it's federal, and then there is a match requirement for that funding.
A match from the city?
Yeah, it's a split between the city and the state provides some as well. Yeah, so it's, TDOT will talk a little more about actual numbers on that. Any other questions?
What kind of federal strings are attached if we're taking federal dollars? What kind of stuff can we walk ourselves into as far as federal strings are attached?
It's really, I would say this is a primary thing in terms of, requirements that these are required to do. So if you don't have like a metropolitan transportation plan that's up to date, that's not being updated every 5 years, then that might implicate the types of projects y'all can actually move forward with in the area, because if you don't have an MTP that's up to date, then you don't have a TIP that's in compliance, and then we wouldn't be able to take any federal action on certain projects.
I am bored now already, except to someone in Nashville. Two questions. One, what is the advantages? What do we get that we don't have with the MPO?
I mean, I think that's in a way for y'all to decide. I mean, again, it does maybe allow a smaller, allows y'all to create a vision for the area that you all choose. So I think there's a little bit more maybe control, but advantages, I can't really per se speak to it. I think that kind of would be up to the decision makers to really decide if y'all feel like you'd be getting more out of it than the process that you all are part of now.
How does a smaller MPO relate to a bigger MPO? Like the Nashville MPO is huge, and I just wondered what do we get basically in relating? We're the small potatoes compared to a Nashville MPO.
I can answer your question.
Sure.
When you ask about what's our benefit, well, for one, we cut out bureaucracy, because we'll be dealing directly with TDOT and FHWA with our own money instead of having to go through the Nashville MPO to get our own money. If that makes sense. So we're cutting out a lot of red tape, and hopefully we can facilitate projects quicker.
And the relationship between the Nashville's decision to do certain things that would affect us, or our decision that would, because we're impacted, what we would, I guess, projects that we would develop would certainly relate to the Nashville MPO. So
well, the projects that we're currently developing, we have our own funds, but we still have to go through the overall process through the National MPO and going through the call for projects, going through all of the prerequisites for getting awarded the funding for your projects. So in essence, I mean, it's going to save us time and give us direct relationships with TDOT and FHWA in developing our plan for our region, instead of the overall plan, which is dictated by the Nashville MPO.
Does the elected body like City Council make that decision, or does it have to go to some process, some vote that the public says we want to do this? How do we do this?
It's that agreement between the city or the elected officials and the governor. So it's really between the state and elected officials to make that decision.
But I think, Bill, most of the time, and
Jim, tell me if I'm wrong on this, there are already other MPOs that are even smaller than us, correct?
Yeah.
So,
I would like to add one thing as well. Our census population in 2020 was 177,000. So 2030, we're going to top the large UZA, which it probably makes a lot of sense to go ahead and get our MPO started to be able to manage that larger UZA MPO.
And I will say, like Jim had said, there, in the Tri-Cities, like Bristol, Johnson City, Kingsport, those are 3 separate MPOs, and there is a lot of collaboration with them. So I think it's not like it would cut you all out of the Nashville process. Realistically, you'd still interact with them, make sure that, your planning aligns, right, that you're still coordinating that process. So it wouldn't sever that relationship. I'd hope not.
How long has theirs been in existence up in the Tri-Cities?
For a long time, but I wouldn't be able to point a certain.
You know how long the Tri-Cities
have been in?
MPOs? 80s?
Oh, that's what I'm thinking.
80s.
Yeah, it's over the 80s, yeah.
They weren't that big back then. So.
At least 50,000.
Yeah.
So what's the next step? What is the point of decision that needs to be?
Can we let TDOT do their presentation?
TDOT do theirs.
We'll follow up on
And
that.
yeah,
No, I was going to say, make sure we want to hear from TDOT.
definitely. And I'll still be here if there's any other questions.
Yeah, thank you
Appreciate
so
y'all.
much.
Yeah, no problem.
So I got a question for Jim after TDOT.
We're not doing any questions, Austin.
Oh, okay.
No more questions.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Okay. I was going to go along with it.
We're afternoon now, right? All right. Good afternoon. I'm Stacy Morrison. I'm planning manager for TDOT. And Anne Marie Anway, she's going to give you some information on particular one of the slides. Also with us is our director from Long Range Planning, Matt Reserve, over here with us. So good to be with you all today. Again, just want to emphasize again, just like Federal Highway, just like Melanie said, we're here to give you all the information so you can take that and make your decision. We're not advocating for or against either way. Again, just providing as much information as possible so y'all can make an informed decision. So like y'all asked about, just thought I'd throw this slide up here to show you that we currently have 12 RPOs. That's our regional areas. That's the areas outside the MPO areas. As you can see, all the MPO areas in gray. And currently there are 11 MPOs in the state. Like Jim just said, there's 5 large MPOs. Clarksville is with the latest census just eclipsed the 200,000, which makes them a TMA. That puts on a couple other additional requirements for an MPO. So they just eclipsed that by about 800 or 900 folks. So they were just right there. And I kind of always find fun in this. Putnam County, Cookeville did a lot of work preparing to become an MPO, and they were 800 people short. And so they all went to Clarksville. I always like to make that joke. So we could have that as well. So, and actually, Spring Hill is also just eclipsed the 50,000 mark as well, which is part of the Nashville MPO as well. Just for perspective as well, 5 of the 11 MPOs are by state, so we share responsibility. So you have those adjoining states have staff that also help support the program as well. As you can see, those 5 that bleed into the other states. So they get double federal highway, double state assistance to help with the programs. Again, just trying to give you a perspective on how TDOT helps support the MPO program. We work along with do oversight. We have a lot of cooperation, collaboration with Federal Highway and with the MPOs to help with all those federal requirements that you'll be required to do if you so choose. So that again, some of those things are time sensitive. We make sure we keep communication with staff to make sure everything's taken care of. I mean, there's certain instances where if things get delayed or not prepared, that everything stops, so you can't use your funds for particular things. We have assigned staff, so I'm a planning manager. for statewide. My Office of Community Transportation, I have planners located across the state. We assign lead staff to assist, comes to the meetings and gives TDOT's perspective. Also, the regional staff and headquarters staff are also participants in your meetings, and also, that's a current process already. We have a lot of communication with Jim already with our regional and headquarters staff, but again, we help support that at meetings and other information to make sure you're up to speed and everything with there. We don't have a number or anything like that, but on funding to help a startup, maybe seed money, that's something if y'all do make the decision, we can talk further about that, maybe be able to give you some assistance to get some of the required elements put into place that you have to do prior to becoming officially an MPO. So how do we handle the money? Again, this is from an administrative standpoint. So the funds are, like Melanie talked, I'm not sure if she talked about this part or not, but we get statewide funds. We refer to them as PL dollars from Federal Highway. We combine those with the other funds she talked about, the 5307 planning dollars. So that becomes CPG, that's combined planning dollars. Don't want to try to confuse you all our fun acronyms, but so this big pot comes in. We distribute that by population to all the MPOs. Essentially set up so you can have enough funds. It's set up to have enough funds to do the required planning elements and be able to have staff to support those items. We do that on every odd year, basically. We will do a 2-year contract, the contract that carries those funds, and Anne Marie will talk a little bit more detail on what that looks like. That carries that. And it coincides with a UPWP. That's your work plan. That's what you, these are the items that we want to accomplish in the next 2 years, and we prepare a budget for that, and we make sure that you've got enough in your budget to be able to take care of those items as well. Just want to throw this up for perspective and to note as well, this is not impacted. These are the dollars that already come to you all. They're carried in the tip that's prepared by the Nashville MPOs, the tip, and then the statewide STIP. And y'all would be responsible for these as well as carrying the state projects in your area within your boundary as well. So that's those dollars. Those are current as of a few days ago. But again, I just wanted to note too that those are not impacted one way or the other, but you just got some more responsibility to manage those funds. And I'm going to let Anne Marie take over here and talk about estimated funding. I'll note real quick, and she'll probably get into this a little bit more too. A lot of those come estimated because of the timing of it all. We've got to prepare, kind of prepare ahead for estimated dollars that will come, and then we get those and we know for sure what those dollars are. So she'll talk a little bit about that and talk about the actual dollars.
So like I said, I'm Anne Marie Anway. I work in the admin team, and I am the one who processes all the invoices that MPOs send in. That includes things such as staff salaries and hours that are worked for MPO issues. Sometimes it includes any kind of contractors or consultants that are used. It can include, sometimes it includes different building costs. You have a cost allocation plan that you do with a third-party agency. So I go through those and make sure the numbers all match and right, and then send it on for approval. But that's all part, those numbers are based on what's put in your UPWP, which is your planning work plan. So this right here may seem a little confusing. I am known to give you excess information. So this is just for fiscal year 25. We're already in 24. It's estimated, as Stacy said, because to tell you, we literally just received funding, the 5303, last week for fiscal year 24. So that's why it's estimated. We get an estimate from FHWA. It's usually pretty spot on or right around that. I think the 5303 was like 100,000 more than what was anticipated. And so it's based on population is how it's divided up. there's a $150,000 base. That means you get $150,000 straight off of PL funds, no matter what. Then it's based on your population. That turns into a percentage point. So population funding is $219,000, which you'll see. Then it's an 80-5-15. So 80% is from the federal, 5% the state matches, and the MPO, if you guys would be required to do a 15% local match based on all your spending. So total PL only allocations would be the $462,054. Again, it's estimated. It could be a little higher, could be a little lower, but it's typically not lower. 5303 funds, again, 80-5-15, and you'll see the different matches for state, federal, and local. So your total PL funds, usually when we give you your balance, we don't require local match checks to be sent in to us. You guys just kind of, when you invoice it, it's kind of, this is our part, we paid this much, and we're just requesting the state and the federal amount be reimbursed. So that's your PL, that's your 5303, the 98, and then so total estimated CPG funding, which is the combined funding of the PL and 5303, would for 1 year only would be about $490,000. Again, that's 1 year. We typically do a 2 year, so we would estimate based on the 2 year. This would begin October 1st of 2024. If you guys do later, then it would be, it would be based on, we'd have to split it out and do that. If you started at the beginning of the next contract year, which would be 26, 27, then you would get your 2 year estimate at the beginning to base your UPWP on. You would give your funding and go from there. But that's basically how we figure out the formulas, and so you kind of have an idea. It goes up a little bit every year, but it's rarely, it's never less so far that I'm aware of, has it? No. Because there's also that inflation, so they usually have a little jump up. But that's the anticipated funding. I know that right now, any projects that are done in your area are usually in the Nashville invoices that I receive, and so it's based on that, but it's something to start with. So probably for a 2 year would be, almost $1,980,000 you could probably anticipate having over the next 2 years. I don't know if you have any questions, or Stacy.
Yeah, I think that was our last slide. Yep. That was it. So any questions or that you all still have? Again, just want to kind of give you an idea. Again, the CPG dollars, again, that's to fund staff and planning documents primarily to run the program.
What's a typical invoice? We'll just use the Tri-Cities as an example. Or what are they sending to you in terms of invoices for staff and salaries to run their program, out of curiosity?
So I can pull it up exactly for you, but just off the top of my head, it varies by MPO, to be honest. Some MPOs have a high staff, and a lot of their invoice is staffing, which includes not just hourly rates, but benefits and that kind of thing. And some of the smaller ones, like Clarksville, Bristol, they only have like 5 or 6 employees that they claim. I think Clarksville has 2 and 3 actually that they claim. So it just depends. Some of the bigger ones have 10, 15. It just depends. They choose how they do it, and it's approved beforehand how much they're going to spend on the administration part of what it takes. But that's kind of how they do that. Like I said before, there's some who invoices like, hey, we share a building with the city or whatever, and our office is this, and it's like 5%, and so 5% of those expenses are reimbursed. And any kind of, if you hire a consultant to do your planning, that stuff they get reimbursed. But staffing varies based on the MPO. Like I said, we have one that has 1.5. We have another one that has 3. We have some that have like 12, 15. So it just varies based on the MPO.
Do they normally have to hire additional staff, or is this billing you for the existing staff work?
Yeah, so, and then on some of what she said as well, like, and then we can share those numbers, and the other MPOs will be glad to share those with you as well. The challenge there is that you have staff that are doing multiple programs.
Yeah.
And so, I'm spending half of my time on MPO, and I'm spending the other half of my time out, writing zoning ordinances, things like that. So there's a lot of that across the state as well. So even our smaller MPOs, there's been some issues over the last few years where we'll meet with them, every 4 or 5 years, and the challenge has been staffing. I'll let y'all know that. We ask that they have one full-time dedicated person to the program and at least another half or full person because we had some people that's retired and things like that, and they were a one-person show. And they've retired, and they're scrambling to try to find somebody, and so, hey, Jim's still here. He's going to do it, that gets us just stacked on top of what Jim's doing, and so we've had a lot of that. So even for the smaller MPOs, which you all are going to be, you're much larger than because a lot of them are just over that 50,000. So y'all are going to, you're going to need sufficient staffing, 1.5 to 2 people for sure. And again, like she said, Clarksville, they only have 2. They do the required elements, where Southern MPOs are, they're doing additional plans and a lot of it's kind of wide open on how much you want to do with your available dollars. And that's what we encourage them to do that as well, along with Federal Highway.
And we only have I think only one that I can think of off the top of my head who is like 100%, all their hours are like 100% MPO related. Most of them are split, or even if they're like a by-state, or they'll split between, hey, we're working on the Kentucky side of things, or hey, we're working on the, the Tennessee side of things. And so, they may work 40 hours a week, but, this week only 20 hours was for the MPO, and the other 20 was for whatever. So that they bill it by hours that are actually worked for the MPO.
Is that 85-15 split pretty, that's set in concrete, that's pretty,
Yeah. So the different funding has different splits. So several years ago, they went to the CPG to make it more uniform. So it's just,
Yeah, we had some 80-10-10, we had some 80-20, some 85-50. We combined it all, so it's just to simplify it. So
average.
It kind of balanced out because there was some 80 where there was some 20% local match, and there was some 10% local match. So we found the middle ground, and I think in the end it actually benefits the 15%, 5 in the overall long range situation there. That ended up that way.
But it is funding that you're reimbursed, so you have to put it up first, and then you get the money back.
Yeah.
And we invoice quarterly.
Yeah, it's done quarterly.
What's the most recent one that has stood up like us? Clarksville, for example, or Jackson, or,
None since I've been around. I've been over 10 years, so they were all before then. Okay. So I guess Cleveland would have been Cleveland and Jackson would have been some of the last ones.
Okay. The reason I'm just trying to get, when they did it, what was the immediate advantages that they saw to doing it? And then what was, say, the potential drawback or things they didn't see, if you have any perspective on that?
I think it's going to be different in every situation. A good situation because y'all been involved for so long with Nashville, so you along with Jim have a really good perspective on that, and so you're not just so those others when they eclipse that 50, like, oh, now we've got to do it. I'd actually been preparing for the last 2 years. We'd run the numbers, Cookwood ran the numbers, we were for sure, but the census, the way they did the population change to the households, impacted them 800 people. And so we had pre-prepared for that one, but I don't have any negative perspective. Again, it's just, you're just taking on some responsibility, and you just got to understand what you're responsible for. That's a big my perspective on that.
Any more questions? Jim?
I would like to address a couple things. You're talking about staffing. The CPG monies that they were showing of $490,000, consider that like operating funds, okay? That's kind of what we use for our transit operations. It's operating funds to operate the program. The STBG funds that you saw, that is more of construction type projects, okay? And 17.9 is on Cherry Lane, okay, Aaron? So that's where it's going. But I guess moving forward, staff would request development of an MPO prospectus that would outline the development and organization as well as costs for establishing a Murfreesboro MPO. That's staff's request.
You're not asking for us to make the decision whether to do it or not, but to go through the process and determine if this makes sense for us.
Yes, sir. It provides more information and outlines the actual MPO and how it would look.
Once we get to 200,000, because we were talking about the youth, then things are going to change anyway when we get to 200,000, correct?
Yes, sir. And they can speak more to the large UCA than I can, but we'll be there the next census.
And which means, is that basically mandating that we would have to have our own MPO, or that there was going to be additional requirements that would go to the national MPO right now?
It does not.
Okay.
Questions to make sure.
So once we get to 200,000, what changes for the city?
Yeah, a city of 200,000 or UZA of 200,000 or more is a transportation management areas. Essentially an MPO, but there's a couple more strings attached. Like most, kind of the biggest one is you have to have a congestion management process. Just because your area is so big and so populated, you really have to have a plan to make sure you're managing that congestion the right way. And there is, you get more funding though with certain things as well. So there's pluses and minuses. The one thing we will have to look into, I'm not 100% sure if, right now Nashville is a TMA area, a transportation management area. And, y'all are an urbanized area being kind of served by the Nashville MPO, part of their planning area. I'm not totally sure about two TMAs functioning together. I'd have to just make sure I give you guys the right information on that.
Thank you.
So you would have to come back to us with a prospectus that basically says, here's what the cost-benefit analysis would be.
I will be coming back to you with a contract for a prospectus for a consultant to develop that for us.
Okay. Well, Council, I can say I think it'd be good for us to get the information, but I know when we had this discussion, so the mayor appoints is assigned to the GNRC and to the MPO, but we have a delegate who does that. Before Jim, it was Dana Richardson, and then now Jim does that, because clearly you can hear all the information that comes across, and you really need to be a trained professional to be able to, I think, in my opinion, I wouldn't want to be up there making these transportation decisions. Jim is really good with that. But I also think if you were to talk to Dana Richardson, who did this years before Jim, I think Dana would advocate for exactly what Jim is talking about right now. And I don't think it's necessarily from a standpoint of we need to get the information, but I think any time that we can control some of our own destiny as opposed to being lumped in with Nashville, that causes. Yes. So Jim can say it, that I'm not, but I mean, when we're, and I'm not saying this happens, but when we're asking for approval to get the funds that have already been allocated to us, sometimes that causes issues. And at the same time too, I do think local decisions are better made at the local level. And when we're talking about things that directly relate to Rutherford County and Murfreesboro, there could be an argument that it would be better handled at, the council who is appointing that MPO representing Murfreesboro. There's the opportunity that there could be some advantages with that. Now, my guess is if we talk to the GNRC like I did, or the director this morning, just to give a heads up that I felt like it would be good to let him know that this conversation is taking place. He was not really thrilled that we're having this conversation. So I'm sure that there will be some information come to us on why that it may not be beneficial. But mainly it had to do with staffing, their staffing, which, you know.
We're currently paying them about $50,000 annually.
Correct. It's 26 cents per resident. Does that sound right?
I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head. Aaron may.
I don't know those. Send me the bill.
In theory, that money would come back to us if we're our own, or we keep it in the sense.
Yeah.
That is this year's, we have this year's invoice, and it's actually in the budget right now, just as a placeholder.
Do we need to take action or to do this, or do we just say, give assent to have that
I think
looked at?
Unless there's if there's any objection to Jim proceeding, I'd just say, is there any objection for Jim proceeding with a prospectus? I don't know that we necessarily need a motion, but we can ask for a motion if that would be easier.
I mean, you can always ask for a motion, but I think direction's fine. If there's no objection, we can go forward. I mean, we'll have a contract that'll be brought back.
Yes.
To council at some time, so that'll be.
It'll probably be within the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Right.
All right. Hey, we want to say thank you to our federal and state partners for y'all coming and advising us. Is now a good time that we talk about more funds for Murfreesboro, for TDOT?
Hey, we are, Mayor. Come on, that's what this is part of.
Over here. No, seriously, thank y'all. Y'all have a tough job. We really appreciate the hard work y'all do for Murfreesboro and Rutherford County. So, all right, let's move to solid waste fee review. Darren.
Jim, you got to stick around and whatnot.
I'll walk them out.
I'll go through all of yours. All right. Council, thank you for the opportunity to present several items today. All this information has been included in your agenda, so I've just kind of repackaged it and condensed it, and I'm going to just go through it relatively quickly. So the first item is the solid waste fee review. We had an 8-year rate design last year, so really I think we're into the year 2 of our 8-year design. Before going into that, I'll just kind of show you the trend for our total solid waste carts that we currently have in the city. We're increasing about 120 carts per month. That's about a 2.8% annual growth rate. And this is commercial and residential, but I would say commercial carts are not growing that quickly. This is the actual design that we presented last year. It's a $2 per year increase. The row that's highlighted is what we would be proposing for FY25. It would be a $2 increase for residential, $5 for commercial outside the city core overlay, and then the $30 would stay the same. The recovery percentage there is in that one column. We're showing that to be about a 72.3% recovery of the overall costs. So you can kind of see what's planned in the future as well. It dips down in FY27. That's because that's when we expect Middle Point to close, and there will be some increased fees associated with disposal that year. But by FY31, we get back to 100%, just over 100% recovery at this rate design. Again, it's all pro forma and prospectus, but I wanted to give this to you. So this is kind of what it looks like right now. About $16.50 per month. It would cover our existing expense and debt. It's going to take about another $8.50 per month to cover the new debt and disposal costs. And so by FY31, we're looking at about a $25 per month residential customer fee. And again, that $11.50 right now shows about 72%, generates about $8 million of the needed $11.1 million. So that difference would have to be subsidized by the general fund. So this is the future recommendation. We would be bringing this forward. We're not asking for a vote today. We're just giving you the information. And we'll be bringing this forward in a resolution coming up to increase that $2 per month residential, $5 commercial outside CCO, and keeping the CCO rate the same. Again, that bumps us up about $1.4 million in revenue versus today. So that's it for the solid waste fee review. And I can take questions now or move on to the next item.
What's driving the increase there?
The increase is to get to...
Yeah, because I know you want to be self-sustaining.
Correct.
And we just did this a little while ago.
Right. We did it last year. We went from 7.5 to 9.5, and this year from 9.5 to 11.5. So what's driving is to get that full cost of recovery, to get to that 100% where it's self-reliant, and that so it's a service. And what we have right now is not all the commercial customers receive city service. So we're trying to charge the fee for service to those who receive the benefit.
Is this what was proposed last year?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so there's no difference in the rate what was proposed last year.
Correct. This is what you saw last year. Okay. Yes.
Darren, I think it's important also that we talk about, we don't think about this a lot, but when we talk about this solid waste residential fee, for example, people will say, well, that needs to be put in my property tax, but there's a lot of people who, if we put it on the property tax, who would be taxed for a service they don't receive. For example, anyone who lives in a townhome development, the city does not provide solid waste pickup.
Correct.
So if you have a commercial business inside the city, the majority of commercial businesses who pay 40% also pay for outside trash service.
That's right.
So there's a lot of, the way that this is being looked is if you use the service, you pay for it, but we're not putting undue burden on people paying taxes that don't receive that service.
Absolutely correct.
So, collection and disposal of garbage is a utility service, and while you can run a utility on general taxation, it's not the best way to do it for exactly why you said. So this is no different than providing water and sewer for health and safety. It's collection and disposal of trash, and so what we're moving toward is a utility model to allow it to be more fairly, the cost to be more fairly allocated amongst customers.
When we look at the pro formas for Waste Away, what number are we budgeting for these cans? Are we talking $25 a can per month? Are we talking $11.50 a month? What are we looking at as far as the pro forma with Waste Away?
Well, so may have more information for you on this next month. Right now, I would say to be conservative, we would budget the same, $25 a month. The thing that we're working with right now with Waste Away on their pro forma is that fee could decrease.
That's what I was getting at.
It could decrease in the future based on the natural gas that it's sales. So there's the nice thing about the waste, I mean, every other pro forma you're going to see on solid waste fees is going to be ascending, and we're looking at a pro forma over time with Waste Away that could potentially be descending or at least remain constant and not go up.
You beat me to my next question.
We have collection regardless, yes. I mean, the $16.50 is kind of to cover our current costs, is that if you go back, the $16.50 is kind of covering the base cost. That's where we really should be at to cover 100% right now. And the orange lines is what's the future disposal cost.
All right, let's move to sewer allocation variance exemption analysis.
Oh gosh, did
You have water.
Oh, I'm sorry. Water and sewer rate design review. I apologize.
We may have to move one. Thank you. So this is the 5-year rate design. This is from FY25 through 28. This pro forma does account for about $120 million in debt. I increased that substantially from last year based on the fact that we do look like we have a very promising position in regards to getting our NPDES permit expanded, which would allow for our water resource recovery facility to be expanded. So $120 million is just kind of a best guess, but that's been included in the pro forma. This chart, if you look on the left legend there, that's kind of the different customer classes, and we predict consumption. So this is how much water would actually be consumed. And we've only got about a 1.5% growth rate in the next 4 years, and that's because our water system is finite. It's not growing. So community is surrounding us. All the city's growth is being serviced by a consolidated utility district. What that looks like in revenue, that's only about a $58,000, or almost $59,000 in commodity increase revenue next year. So we are proposing a minimum monthly revenue increase of about 3%. So this is through the left side here is meter sizes. So all residential are just, well, 99% of residential have a 5/8 inch meter. So we're talking about a 28-cent per month increase. If they use the same amount of water as they did last year. And so the higher up, the larger meters are more for commercial, large commercial and industrial users. So again, we didn't go over 3% on any of the monthly minimums. And the commodity rate, we're just talking about 4 cents per thousand. I'll show that in a minute. So this is a total. Water's only going to be able, with these proposed rate increases, would only generate about $177,000 next year. So this just shows kind of the case of where, when you don't have growth supporting a utility, it really does. You just to keep up with inflation, you've just got to get some rate increases to cover you. Sewer is a different story. This is where we're showing about 7.3% growth in the next 4 years. That's because, again, a historical projection. I feel very confident about that. What does that look like? Well, that's about $1.12 million in commodity revenue, and that's not changing the commodity rate. That is just revenue generated based on new connections and new growth. We are, though, proposing the same kind of minimum monthly revenue increase right at 3%. Again, another 28 cents per month for residential. So if you add the water and sewer, that's 56 cents per month increase. So this is the rate design for the next several years. Again, the shaded column shows that we would go from $10.72 per month to $11 for water, go from $3.60 per 1,000 gallons to $3.70. Similarly with sewer, go from $10.72 to $11, and the commodity charge would stay at $5.50 per 1,000 gallons. That does give us a projected overall recovery of around 112%. You can just kind of see, though, over time, as we go through pro forma and we change those rates, accordingly, we get down to only about 102% recovery in FY28. Residential, this is what we're talking about over the next several years. 79 cents would be about the impact of the proposed rate changes this year, 79 cents next year, $1.82 the year after that, $2.11 after that. That is primarily driven by that $120 million debt service that we expect to start incurring by FY28 and the plant expansion. So again, this is proposed. Right now, really, we're just looking at the dark bar there, the 2025 proposed rate. We have a cost of service that we do every other year, so we update this every 2 years so that you all can kind of see. And if we don't build the things we think we're going to build, or if the things that we're building cost more than what we estimated, we come back and adjust. So that's really it for the water and sewer rate design as well, if you all have any questions about that. Again, not asking for approval. This would come forward to you with a future resolution to change these rates. And again, you've got all this is in your report.
All right, let's move to sewer allocation variance.
This is, thank you, Mayor. Again, this is something you all had asked for last workshop. So thanks to planning and a lot of the folks, Matthew Blomley, who put together a lot of these variance requests. You've got the table. You've actually got a table in the back of in your report that shows the actual variance requests that are shown individually. I kind of put this pie chart together. There's 39 total requests since the sewer allocation ordinance has been put in place. You can kind of just see that breakout. What I did, we looked at the requests by acreage and by single-family unit per acre increase. So this is the average acreage per request by category. So you can kind of see those dashed lines that represent 2 acre, 3 acre, and 5 acres and the different percentages. If you said we wanted to exempt the variance requests for anything under 2 acres, then 69% would have been exempted. If you wanted to say we want to exempt anything less than 5 acres in total land mass, you would have exempted 77% of the requests. Now, when you look at the single-family unit per acre increase, again, if it was less than 4, 30 would have been exempted. That's 77%, and less than 7 SFUs per acre would have been 90%. You would have exempted 35. So we did a kind of a combination here and said, if we said anything less than 3 acres in total land size and did not generate more than 5 single-family units per acre, 27 out of the 39 variance requests would have been eliminated, and you would not have had to hear them. They would have just been staff approved and moved on. You still would have had to listen to 12 of those, and these are the ones. It's basically hotels, multifamily residential, and convenience stores. And I think the convenience stores may be skewed a little bit because that's that's the Hy-Vee site. It kind of was a large. I think that was a 20-acre site roughly. So again, you can see that hotels. Go back to the hotel and the multifamily. Those are the ones kind of bold and in white. You've got 83%. Those represent 83% or 678 single-family units. So just by catching hotels and multifamily residential, you're capturing the majority of the, I guess, of the flow that would be generated, and you're only dealing with about 18% or 18% of the request.
The majority of the multifamily have been those that have done the bifurcation, right?
The multifamily?
Yes.
Maybe. I don't know. I'd have to look at the list. You talking about the bifurcation where they go from, there have been several apartments that have,
where they
split.
change from the common area more.
Change from a common area to another. Yeah, I'd have to look at that. That could be very much it.
I think the density on those actually went down, but the sewer use went up.
Most of those would get caught, though, by the acreage. If they were great, because most of them would be greater than 3 acres.
One's the Point on North Tennessee, Adams Place, Albion, that's another, yeah.
And again, these may all well be served, but that's where we're headed. We're looking at a total size and then a total single-family unit per acre increase, combination of those two to kind of capture some of the bigger requests. And again, this is not something we're asking for your approval today, but this would get crafted into a future ordinance revision. We just want to make sure we were on the right thought process, right track with you all.
Any questions? All right, let's move to revisions of the stormwater chapter City Code.
Okay, there's a lot of folks here that have worked on this that I'm presenting it, but I'm going to say that the legwork was done by a lot of other folks. So if there's any questions, I'm probably going to be asking them to come to the podium. But I do want to present. Since I was up here, I just figured I'd go ahead and get into it. So just for those of y'all who were not part of the stormwater management initial ordinance city code chapter, this covers illicit discharges, construction site runoff, stormwater control measures, water quality protection areas, aka stream side buffers, compliance and enforcement, and the actual stormwater user fee. Why are we changing? Well, there's a new permit and rule, a TDEC rule, that requires some changes to our buffers and our stormwater control measure designs. So we're also updating the construction site runoff section per TDEC's requirements, and there are some incorporated staff comments and lessons learned since I think our first MS4 was around 2007, 2006, 2007. I know we started the fee in 2008. So the proposed changes, there's I think 12, maybe 11. I asked Josh Upham, our stormwater manager, to kind of categorize these into levels of, I would call them levels of concern. As you change ordinances, really everybody just wants to know what's going to make it tougher to comply. These in green, we're saying there's really no level of concern. They're either the same or they're just so de minimis in regards to development that we don't believe there's going to be much I don't want to say kickback, much pushback. There you go. I was going to say kickback. That's not right. Pushback from the development community. We also have some here in the yellow. There's 5 of these where we have it's a low level of concern, and we kind of give you. And I may send you this. This is not in your agenda packet, but this just was more for me, so I could be led through this and understand again the potential pushback areas. So this just has to deal with the peak discharge control 2 through 100 year. That's really kind of a common in other Tennessee cities, and it's not a TDEC issue, but staff already requires this in drainage sensitive watersheds. Got a 35-foot buffer on streams with drainage area less than 2 acres. This change to streams with the drainage area less than 640 acres. Oh, I'm sorry. It changes it to less than 200 acres, whereas right now it's less than 640. 50-foot buffer on large unimpaired streams. This is permanent signs along the buffer. That's actually a staff option or an option for the developer, I think. That's, again, going to be kind of a voluntary thing. Then the option to require up to 25-foot buffer on karst windows and what's an HSA?
Hydrologically significant water.
Okay, I don't feel so bad. I would have never got that. There's 3 that we kind of tagged as a moderate level of concern. We are changing proposing to change the 10,000 square foot of imperviousness to 10,000 square feet of disturbance. And we're removing, right now it says if it's over an acre and 10,000 square foot of impervious, that you fall within the stormwater guidelines. Now we're just proposing to change that to 10,000 square feet of disturbance. If you look over here on the right column, I asked Josh, I said, how many in the last 2 years would that have affected if we'd have had that regulation in place today? And there was 4. So in the last 2 years, there would have been about 4 sites that would have been affected. And really, per Josh, this is to try to catch some of the infill development, some smaller lots that are going in and taking down single-family residential and putting back 2 or 3, 4 townhomes on a small lot. We're also proposing no streamside buffers with individual residential lots. I was supposed to change that to make it more clear. I didn't, sorry. This is kind of saying that right now if you have a residential lot and there's 20 lots next to the stream, we have 20 different entities that we have to deal with on an enforcement basis. We're proposing going forward that in subdivisions that there would either be a common area or some type of, the HOA would be the entity that we would deal with from the city, and the HOA would deal with any violations along the water quality or the stream buffer. And the last is a 25-foot buffer outside of the regulated floodway. That's just saying, normally we say top of bank or edge of bank of the creek. We take the buffer starting from the top of the bank. Staff believes that there's an sensitive area from the actual limit of the floodway, and try to maintain a 25-foot buffer beyond the floodway limit. So, again, this is not anything we're asking. We are bringing this to your attention because we wanted to get it in front of you before we have our stakeholder meetings. So there's 2 planned stakeholder meetings in April. So we propose to put this out there for their consumption and their feedback, and then see if there are any other pinch points or any pushback areas that we may have not seen. We want to take those revisions, if there's any revisions to the comments in May, presentations to come back to you in June, July, council reading for the ordinance change in July, and effective date in August. So we're ahead of the game. We just thought it was a good good time to bring this to your attention before we sit down with our stakeholders and get input from them. So available for any questions on this as well.
Can you keep us updated when those stakeholder meetings will occur?
Yes, I think we've already set the dates, Josh. What are they?
The 9th and the 12th of April, we'll post the draft and the table of revisions on our website. We'll start accepting comments, and so yeah, April 9th and 12th.
Okay.
And I would be remiss if I didn't note Robert Haley, our old stormwater manager, sitting in the corner. Good to see you, Robert.
It's good to be here.
All right, thank you, Darren.
All right, thank you all very much.
All right, Jennifer, we have a few CIP transfers.
We do. This is just the monthly report of the CIP transfers between the general fund and the bond fund since the previous workshop meeting. No action needed on it if council has any questions.
Any questions for Jennifer? All right, you have the 2024 or January 2024 dashboard. Any questions for Aaron? Aaron, we didn't all get Chick-fil-A for lunch.
I'm sorry. Maybe next month.
I think your daughter, for those who get, her daughter is here. She's on spring break.
Yep.
So, much better way to spend your spring break.
Know how to treat them.
Definitely not Mother of the Year.
Coming to work.
All right. We have no board and commission appointments. Any licensing?
No, sir.
Any statements to be paid?
No, sir.
Any other business from staff?
No, I think we meet next Thursday. I'm going to check real quick. I think we have public hearings. I don't have it listed, but I believe we're planning on meeting next Thursday evening.
Okay. Any other business from City Council? All right, see you none. We'll stand adjourned.